Given the uncertainty that this creates around Huawei's supply chain, the UK can no longer be confident it will be able to guarantee the security of future Huawei 5G equipment affected by the change in US foreign direct product rules. To manage this risk, they have now issued new advice on the use of Huawei in UK telecoms networks. So this morning, the Prime Minister chaired a meeting of the National Security Council. Attendees at that meeting took full account of the National Cybersecurity Centre's advice, together with the implications for UK industry and wider geostrategic considerations. The government agrees with the National Cybersecurity Centre's advice. The best way to secure our networks is for operators to stop using new affected Huawei equipment to build the UK's future 5G networks. So to be clear, from the end of this year, telecoms operators must not buy any 5G equipment from Huawei. And once the Telecom Security Bill is passed, it will be illegal for them to do so. But we also recognise the range of concerns voiced in this House regarding Huawei's role in our 5G network. I have listened carefully to those concerns, and I do agree that we need clarity on our position and to take decisive action. Mr. Speaker, I have previously set out our plans to safely manage the presence of high-risk vendors in our 5G network. And of course, our ambition right from the very beginning was that no one should need to use a high-risk vendor for 5G at all. But I know that honourable members have sought a commitment from the government to remove Huawei equipment from our 5G network altogether. This is why we have concluded that it is necessary and indeed prudent to commit to a timetable for the removal of Huawei equipment from our 5G network by 2027. Let me be clear. This requirement will be set out in law by the Telecom Security Bill. By the time of the next election, we will have implemented in law an irreversible path for the complete removal of Huawei equipment from our 5G networks. Mr. Speaker, we have not taken this decision lightly, and I must be frank about the decision's consequences for every constituency in this country. This will delay our rollout of 5G. Our decisions in January had already set back that rollout by a year and cost up to £1 billion. Today's decision to ban the procurement of new Huawei 5G equipment from the end of this year will delay rollout by a further year and will add up to £500 million to costs. Requiring operators, in addition, to remove Huawei equipment from their 5G networks by 2027 will add hundreds of millions of pounds further to the cost and further delay rollout. This means a cumulative delay to 5G rollout of 2 to 3 years and costs of up to £2 billion. This will have real consequences for the connections on which all our constituents rely. And I have to say that to go faster and further beyond a 2027 target would add considerable and indeed unnecessary further costs and delays. And of course, the shorter we make the timetable for removal, the greater the risk of actual disruption to mobile telephones networks. The world-leading expertise of NCSC and GCHQ has enabled us to publish one of the most detailed analyses of the risks to the 5G network. The UK is now acting quickly, decisively, and ahead of our international partners. Our approach reflects the UK's specific national circumstances and how the risks from these sanctions are manifested here in the UK. This has not been an easy decision, but it is the right one for the UK's telecoms networks, for our national security and our economy, both now and indeed in the long run. We also, though, need to look at other networks. Although these are fundamentally different to 5G, as many members of this House have pointed out in the past, they need to be as secure and resilient as our new mobile technology. So, reflecting again the advice of the National Cybersecurity Centre, we will need to take a different approach to full fibre and older networks, one that recognises that they are different to 5G in terms of their technology, their security, and indeed the vendors supporting them. Given there is only one other appropriate scale vendor for full fibre equipment, we are going to embark on a short technical consultation with operators to understand their supply chain alternatives so that we can avoid unnecessary delays to our gigabit ambitions and prevent significant resilience risks. That technical consultation will determine the nature of our rigorous approach to Huawei outside the 5G networks. Of course, all of this, Mr. Speaker, has implications for the Telecom Security Bill. I am fully aware of the commitment that I made in this House in March to introduce it before the summer recess. As I'm sure honourable members will appreciate, today's decision, however, will substantially change what is in that bill. We will, though, of course, introduce the bill to the House in the autumn. Of course, it is in all of our interests for this legislation to be introduced and passed as soon as possible, because this is the key point. We have to ensure that our telecom security advice is on a secure statutory footing. And as this House knows, one of the reasons we're in this situation is because of a global market failure. Put simply, countries around the world, not just in the United Kingdom, have become dangerously reliant on too few vendors. We have already set out a clear and ambitious diversification strategy. That strategy will include wide-ranging action in the short, medium and long term, with the aim of driving competition and innovation to grow the market and deliver greater resilience across all of our networks. The strategy will focus on three core elements. First of all, we need to secure the supply chains of our incumbent non-high-risk vendors by putting in place measures and mitigations that will protect supply chains and ensure there is no disruption to our networks. Second, bringing new scale vendors into the UK market by removing barriers to entry, providing commercial incentives and creating large-scale opportunities for new vendors to enter the UK market. And third, addressing the existing structure of the supply market by investing in research and development and building partnerships between operators and vendors that will mean operators using multiple vendors in a single network will become the standard across the industry. Success will, of course, require a shared commitment between government and industry to take the necessary steps to address this issue. We are already engaging extensively with operators, vendors and governments around the world about supporting and accelerating the process of diversification. And, of course, we recognise that this is a global issue that requires international collaboration to deliver a lasting solution. So we're working with our Five Eyes partners and our friends around the world to bring together a coalition to deliver our shared goals. Now, I know in addition that many members of this House have considered the government's policy on high-risk vendors in the context of the United Kingdom's wider relationship with China. Let me assure members that this government is clear-eyed about China. We have been robust in our response to the imposition of new security laws in Hong Kong, including through our generous offer to British national overseas passport holders. What we want is a modern and mature relationship with China based on mutual respect, where we're able to speak frankly when we disagree, but also to work side by side with China on the issues where our interests converge. Today's decision, however, is about ensuring the long-term security of our telecoms network, specifically in the light of those new US sanctions. The security and resilience of our telecoms networks is of paramount importance. We have never and will never compromise that security in pursuit of economic prosperity. It is a fact that the US has introduced additional sanctions on Huawei, and as facts have changed, so has our approach. That is why we have taken this decision that there can be no new Huawei equipment from the end of this year and set out a clear timetable to exclude Huawei completely by 2027 with an irreversible path implemented by the time of the next election. Telecoms providers will be legally required to implement this by the Telecom Security Bill, which we will bring before this House shortly. Mr. Speaker, this important decision secures our networks now and lays the foundations for a world-class telecoms security framework in the future, and I commend this statement to the House.